this facility. But the purpose of doing this today, right, is to address the common dysfunctions with the lumbo-pelvic complex, right, and how it translates to movement deviations, not just in the hips, but also in the legs, as well as everything above, right, in the torso. So that will be our focus today. Really, is exercises targeting the hips all the way up through the torso. So we will demonstrate exercises that will address those body tissues, the alignment, the body alignment, as well as body movement patterns that may be causing some of the issues, some of the pains that you may have been experiencing. Right. So restorative corrective work is going to be very important to address these. Now, tools, we're going to need a few pieces of equipment for today's session. And if you have a mat or at least comfortable flooring, certainly that will be um, uh, wanted. And then also we're going to use a foam roller as part of today's session, even a lacrosse ball or some sort of sports ball, whether it be a tennis ball, even a baseball, a massage ball, whatever you have available will work. And also a chair or some sort of platform that's going to elevate so that you can actually place your foot up on top, because we're going to need that for one of the movements today. And we'll also need a towel, a folded towel. Could be a hand towel, right? But something that's folded just for a head support. So if you have another type of padding, you can even do that too. And of course, we're also going to need water. Make sure you have some water available, especially through the self-massage aspect. It's always important to hydrate yourself. But if you are looking for pieces of equipment that you do not have at home, you just don't know where to look for them, such as the foam roller or the sports ball, you can go to our website at goldenhomefitness.com, check out our shop page, and we'll have various pieces of equipment such as that. And go ahead and browse around, and you'll find hopefully what you're looking for. So let's go ahead. We're going to move on to our self-myofascial release segment. So that means we're basically going to use certain pieces of equipment to massage these muscles and other tissues throughout our body. Now, foam roller and the sports ball will be what we need here. And we're going to start with the ball. Last week, I went over using the foam roller for the gluteal complex. But this time, we're going to start with the ball, and I'm going to have you lie down on the floor. So as you're down, hopefully you can see me okay. But as we're down, we're going to place the ball underneath, basically underneath your butt, right? So right underneath those glutes. And we're just going to pick one side. So I'm on my right side to start. And from here, I'm going to lengthen my leg. So it's on my right side, so my right leg will be lengthened. And from here, I'm just going to move around, finding those adhesions or those knots that may be in your body. And once you find that, we're just going to rest on that spot, and we're just going to settle into that spot. You want to feel that release take place, right? Whatever that pressure is, that feeling is, you want it to subside before you start moving on to another spot. Now, we know that the gluteal complex, right, the hip complex is pretty big, right? Not saying you have a big butt or anything, but it is one of the larger areas of the body. So you're going to have to move around to really find those spots. Well, like I'm feeling a good spot right here. So I'm going to stay on this spot. You can add movement to this. If you pull in, where do I feel this? If you pull in your leg and then straighten it out. It's another way where you don't necessarily have to roll back and forth over that spot, but rather you can lengthen and shorten the tissues to still work in that massage. Oh. So again, various ways to do this. I'm going to switch over to the other side. So I'm going to be on my left. And this time, I'm going to straighten out that left leg since the ball is underneath my left glute. And again, just looking for those spots that we can work on. Now, oftentimes the muscles in the hips, not just the glutes, but some of the other muscles in the hips may be tighter, right? They feel tight. And that will certainly affect the rest of your body. Excuse me, sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. But Good, good. So find that spot. Again, just rest on that location, right? Allow yourself to just sink into that spot. And if you want, you can add movement by pulling in your knee, straightening out that leg. But you have to understand those muscles in the hips, if their alignment is off, your pelvis is going to be out of alignment, which will affect most of the activities that you're going to be doing, like walking, for example, right? It's going to affect the way you walk, your posture, and so forth. So the hip complex is very important to address. And what we're going to do now is stick with the ball and go ahead. We're going to roll to the side. So I was just looking at a couple of my colleagues here who are also doing this. Um, Lie down on your side. You can do this on your elbow, or you can just lie flat on your side. But you're going to place the ball right in front of where your hip joint would be, and then you're going to just roll right on top of it. Position the other leg. So I'm on my right side, so my left leg is going to be used for leverage, right? So I have the knee bent, foot down on the floor. And you're just going to roll. It's a small area, right? But roll around to the point where you feel feel whatever knot or tension spots are residing, and then hang out there, right? So again, just relaxing your breath so that you can get that release through that area. Good, good. So again, just relax your breathing. And now, whenever it comes to this, I mentioned this last week, but you don't want to spend any more really than 2 minutes on a particular area because we don't want to overstress the tissues. So now I'm going to switch to the other side, and I'm going to show you with the foam roller what you can do. You can continue to use the ball if you like, but if you only have a foam roller, then what you can do is a similar type of thing. Be on your elbow for this one, though, and again, have the outer hip right on top of that foam roller. And just going to move around. You can roll side to side or move up and down until you find, like right here, until you find that spot we're looking for. So again, those knots, those adhesions, we want to get them to release. Sometimes they're sticky, right? So this is going to help get that tissue to lengthen or to unstick, over time. And this will allow over time to help things get back into better alignment so you have more efficient movement. Good, good. One fact is the muscle fibers right in front of that muscle on the side, the what's often known as the TFL. The forward fibers, the anterior fibers, also help you flex your hip. They help you pick your knee up off the ground. So very important area to address, especially if you feel a lot of tightness right in front of your hip. But moving on to the next is it's going to focus more on the low back in that region. So this one, I do suggest using the lacrosse ball. And we're going to be on your back once again. You're going to place the ball, so never on the spine, but place the ball above your pelvis and below your ribs. All right, so you don't want pressure on the ribs, and it might be it's going to hurt too much if it's right on the edge of the pelvis. So we're going to go right in the middle, and I'm going to have you move around until you find, again, that adhesion we're looking for. Relax into this, and we can add movement. The ball's on my right side, so I'm going to take the left knee, let that collapse inward towards my right knee, and then return. So it's one way to add a little bit more pressure to what you can tolerate in order to work in that release. Ease off of the pressure, because again, if it's too much pressure, again, you can overstress the tissues. So we're looking to avoid that. You want to enhance this, you can also gently lift your hips off of the floor and sink in. So that's a progression you can make. If you're already saying ow, don't even lift the hips. So let's switch to the other side. So same thing, kind of probe around, find that spot we're looking for that really jumps out at you. We're going to hang out there and let that knee collapse inward and back out. So oftentimes we might feel a lot of tightness in the low back, and so this is a good way to allow that, those tissues to try to release a little bit more. And if the pelvis is out of alignment, right, so you're tilted more forward, right, your butt sticks back a little bit more, then that's what's going to happen. Oftentimes the low back will take much of that brunt. Good, good. And hopefully you're feeling a release from this. And we're going to move on to the next area. So let's go ahead and remove that ball. And I'm going to have you use the foam roller. Now, can you use the ball for along the spine, the outside of the spine? You can. But today I'm going to show you with the foam roller what we can do. And we're going to target really the part of the back where the ribs attach. So your thoracic spine or your T-spine. And I'm going to have you lie down starting about mid-back or about like where the bra line would be. That's where we're starting. Support your head with your hands, right? I like to keep my fingers apart from each other because you don't want to push up on the head. Just let the head rest, elbows falling down to the sides, and then we're going to pick your pelvis up away from the floor. I like to, instead of letting the hips drop down, I like to kind of pull it in so the glutes, the tailbone are pulled in line with your spine. From here, let's slowly roll up to about where the shoulder blades are, and then roll it back down. Again, to your starting spot. We're not going all the way down. You're staying off of the low back here. Only stay on the ribs. Now, to enhance this, you can also roll slightly to the side, right? So roll just to the right of the spine, and you can more or better target those muscles known as the erector spinae muscles, right? Those are the muscles that help you stand tall. Oftentimes our posture is more hunched forward, right? Especially if sitting a lot. So this is a good way to help to activate those muscles that might not be activating because they're always lengthened, right? They're always, your spine's in a forward posture. Sometimes you might feel discomfort in that area anyway, so this is a good way to address that. So let's focus by bringing it up more to the shoulder blades, so the scapulae. And what we'll do is take those elbows, bring them up towards the ceiling. Okay, almost like you're giving yourself tunnel vision here. So up towards the ceiling, and now we're opening up those shoulder blades so they move away from the spine, and we can really get those tissues a little bit more directly. And we can do the same thing as we did for the rest of the spine, where we just gently roll to one side. So I'm on the right side now, just inside of that shoulder blade, going up and down. And then I'm going to move over to the left side, doing the same thing. So just rolling. And then now we're going up and down. Again, breathe through the movement. And then slowly bring your hips down to the floor. And we're going to move on to our next area, which is another important muscle in the back, and it's going to be the lats, right? So it's the muscle, it attaches down here, right in the low back area, but also comes up and attaches, believe it or not, it attaches to your arm. So it's going to be important that we hit that area because it tends to be feel tight in many people. And if it's tight, you're not going to be able to get your arm up overhead. So we're going to use the foam roller for that, and I want you angling this so it's not directly perpendicular to torso, but angled downward towards your abdomen. So go ahead and rest. This is going to be like just below the armpit to the back. And you're just going to move around enough to where you can feel, well, you'll know when you're on the spot. You'll be able to feel it. But make sure you find those knots when you're there. Sit on that spot, breathe through. You can also add movement to this by sweeping your arm across the floor. And if you're not feeling anything, then go ahead, move to another location until you do. By sweeping the arm, again, we manipulate the length of the tissue to help get a massage in, but in a different way, rather than just rolling up and down on it. Well, we're going to switch to the other side. All right, so again, angle the foam roller downwards, so it'd be more angled in front, or pointing towards the front of your abdomen. And don't be surprised if you feel one side more so than the other. All right, we are not symmetrical. We strive to be, but our daily activities, there we go, found the spot. Our daily activities, though, tend to have us use one side of the body more than the other. So, don't think that there's something wrong with you, because there's not. But that's another reason why we do this, so we can find those imbalances across the body and address them. Because those imbalances certainly could lead to injury down the road. So we'll stop right there. Good. And we have one more region that we're going to target before we do some stretching, and that will be, let's see, we're going to use the foam roller for this one. We're going to target the pecs, right, the pectoralis muscle, as well as the front of the shoulder, the anterior deltoid. I don't expect you to remember these terms, but I do want you to know what they are. So on the floor, you're going to lay face down, and instead of the foam roller, angling downward towards your abdomen, you're going to have it in the opposite direction. So as I'm, like if, the floor is where you are, foam roller won't be coming across, it'll be angled upwards. Okay, it'll be easier to target the pecs this way. So there's not going to be much movement, as you can imagine, but just position yourself so that you can find what we're looking for, and just allow yourself to relax into this position. You can add movement, just like with the lats. You can sweep your arm across the floor. You can also use the ball to target your pecs. If you have a block, I'm going to switch to the other side. If you have a block or some surface that's elevated, you can put the ball on top of that and do something very similar to this. And today I can feel this more on my right side than I did on my left. You can even rotate your arm, right, to change the movement a little. But if you feel a lot of tightness in your chest, this is a great way to help open you up, especially with more of a rounded back, rounded posture. Oftentimes the shoulders will be pulled forward. The chest will also pull those shoulders more forward and shorten, and you're going to be, hunched. You're going to have your arms forward. Notice how my arms are rotated forward. So we're trying to open things up so that you have a better posture, right? And working on the chest, stretching, foam rolling certainly will contribute to opening up that front. So let's grab some water. After all of that, we need to keep hydrated. You don't have to sweat to stay hydrated. Water, always very important. All right, so how you guys doing so far? Yeah? All right. Got it great, and you got a thumbs up, so that's good. That's good. They're still with us. All right, so we're going to move on to stretching, and I'm going to have you start on the floor. You're going to be seated, and what I'm going to have you do, start with both legs out in front of you. Let's take one leg, bend at the knee, and then we're going to cross that over if you can comfortably do so. If you cannot, you can keep that foot inside of the knee. That's absolutely fine. But we're going to cross that over, and then we're going to turn. We're going to turn our body in towards. So it's my left leg that's crossed over. I'm turning towards the left. And I'm just gently pulling on the knee. You can also have your arm above the knee and pushing. Right, so whatever's going to make it easier for you to do this stretch. So you can feel a stretch through your torso. You might feel this in the glute as well. So oftentimes I like to pull it because I feel like I can get more of a stretch in the glutes, especially the outer part of the glutes. But keep your hand either above or below the knee, not directly on the joint. And I'm going to switch. You can hear my low back cracking here. So again, now to the other side. Again, whatever position you can get yourself into. I'm keeping my hands just above the knee this time. I had it below before. Good, good. So let's stop right here. I'm going to have you lie on your back. Now, before I move on to the next exercise, I do want to say that if you want to, work on more stretches for the glutes, you can go to a video from last week, and I did cover that a little bit more. But here's what we'll do. On your back, we're going to lengthen one leg. So in this case, my right leg is lengthened. I'm going to pick up my left foot, hip, knee, about 90 degrees. And then I'm going to bring that left leg across the body. And my left shoulder will stay down. My right hand will just gently assist. Now, some may be pretty tight here, so you'll feel this right off the bat. Others are very loose, and just boom, the leg just drops right down. Right. So just nice and easy. We're going to settle down into the stretch. And again, you can use that right hand to gently pull down to the left leg. And we're going to relax into the stretch. This is great for rotation in your spine as well as for stretching that outer hip. So let's go ahead and switch. We're going to do the same for the other side. So left leg straightens. My right leg is now bent to 98 hips and knee. And bringing that over and across. Good. You may feel one side over the other. That's fine, right? You know, so many of my clients, one side of their hip tends to be much tighter, that they feel. So don't be surprised by that. Doing great. And you're doing your best to keep that right shoulder on the floor. If it lifts a little, don't sweat it. Just try to keep it down as much as you can. But let's slowly bring it out of that position. And sometimes your hips may feel very tight, and that may go right into the low back. So a stretch like what we just did, you might feel that in multiple places, not just the hips, but also in the low back. That's when you know you're very tight, but also where you know that exercise can be very beneficial for you. And now, this is a very common position in yoga. We're going to do the child's pose. We're going to start on your hands and knees. This is also known as the quadruped position, right? Because you have all fours on the floor. I'm going to reposition my hat to do this one. Because from here, I'm going to try to keep my back level as best I can as I move my hips back towards the heels of my feet. And then I'm going to gently slide my hands forward as I relax down, bringing my chest down towards the floor. Now, I like this stretch because it's a great back stretch. It also can help with stretching, the lats, the low back, and even getting your spine to extend because it's always hunched forward, flexed forward. So we can get it to extend rather than flex. If you struggle to get down, you can widen your legs, widen your knees, and you can get down even lower. Slowly, let's bring it out of that stretch. Doing great. So from this point, we're going to bring it back to our feet, just like we did at the intro. So I'm going to have you stand up nice and slowly. Last week, we touched on the pelvic tilt. We're going to do the same thing here because this is going to play a part with our future movements. So I'll show you from the side. Again, place your forefinger and thumb right on the top of that hip bone, right at the pelvis. And from here, you're going to, let's see if I can reposition here. There we go. You're going to push your fingers, your forefingers, down to get the tailbone and glutes to stick back, and then push down on your thumbs to get the glutes and tailbone to tuck underneath your torso. So we're going to do that again. And notice I'm keeping my torso still, keeping it nice and tall. Not much movement going on in my legs. It's all in the pelvis. If you're challenged by doing this movement, that's fine. Just means that those muscles around the hip are probably very tight and just need more focused attention. So what we'll do is stop right there. And we're going to move on to the, let's see, the hip flexors. Yes, this is where your chair is going to come into play. Your chair, your platform, whatever you have that will allow you to elevate your, and it could even be the couch, right, if you have balance. But you're going to elevate your foot on top of the platform, and this is where the pelvic tilt will come into play. So while you are up, I want you to tuck your pelvis in, right, or your glutes and your tailbone underneath your torso so that you can really feel the glutes squeeze, right? You want them activated for this one. It's going to be very important. You're also going to look down your foot. So the foot that's on the floor, okay? Is it turned outward so your heel is in, or do you have your toes straight? Because I want your toes to be straight for this one. All right, you want both feet to be pointing the same direction here. Squeeze that glute because we're trying to stretch right in front of your hip. What's nice with the chair is, depending how you position it, you can even hold on to it for better balance. So I want to make sure you are balanced when you do these stretches. So we're going to switch to the other side. If you don't have a chair or platform, then you can certainly do this on the floor with your legs staggered. All right? It's going to be a little more difficult, but you can actually do it. So same thing, we're going to squeeze the glute by pulling in the tailbone and butt underneath your torso, keeping your torso nice and tall. Right, proud chest, shoulders back. And watch your feet, right? Are they turned outward or are the toes pointing straight forward? You want them forward. Doing good, doing good. Feel that stretch right in front of the hip joint. Good, good. And let's go ahead and release out of that stretch. And for many of us, especially if you're sitting all the time because of work, driving, etc., even just sitting on the couch, right? You want to do that particular stretch, I would say, every day if you can. I also addressed the hip flexors in last week's video, so go ahead and check that out as well. But we're going to move on and actually bring it back down to the floor because we're going to stretch the abs. So I'm going to show you how we can do that on the floor. You're going to be face down for this, also known as the prone position. So this is, basically like a cobra position. So I'm going to have you start with your arms out in front of you. And I'm going to tuck my toes, right? So my toes dig straight down into the floor rather than the top of the feet. So toes down, feet hip width apart, arms out in front of you. Keeping your eyes looking down at the floor, go ahead and just move your arms gently. So you're pulling your hands in closer to you, which is going to lift your chest and shoulders from the floor. While you do that, push your hips into the floor. So you should feel the glutes activate here. With each deep breath, you should feel those abs getting stretched. And again, keep the hips pushing into the floor so those glutes are activated, which will alleviate any type of pressure you may feel in the low back. But this is a great way to extend the spine, right? You see we're kind of going more in the opposite direction rather than flexing forward. And we're going to slowly bring it down. Some may be fine on the elbows, right? That might be just enough for you. Otherwise, the hands, you can certainly move it onto that. And so let's bring it out of that position, moving on to what's called the Y stretch. So one more time, we're going to be up on our feet. We have two movements left. Both will be on your feet. So the Y stretch, really going to keep your arms lengthened, but we're going to bring them out at an angle, maybe roughly 45 degrees or so. And I'm going to have you turn the palms to face out and away from you. We're going to squeeze those shoulder blades, keeping your spine nice and tall. Watch your head. Sometimes your head is forward, so we need to bring the head back in to keep that tall spine. And again, you can see my hands, so my thumbs are kind of more pointing back. Some of you may do this better than I am, right? But good for external rotation in the shoulder and good for your posture. Pelvic tilt. Squeeze those glutes, pull them underneath. 3, 2, 1. let's get out of that stretch, kind of shake things out a little bit. And for the last one, this is going to be for the neck. All right, how many of you wake up in the morning, you have like that tension, the tightness in your neck, maybe because you slept wrong. So what we're going to do is take yourself so you're in a nice straightened position, right? Pull your head back. From here, we're going to drop your ear down towards the shoulder. So my left ear towards my left shoulder. And then from here, just gently, just very little, bring that chin down towards the chest. And from here, you should feel that stretch going right from the upper back, right, the upper traps, and some of the other neck extensors. You want to feel that stretch. This can be a good one to alleviate, any tension that you might be feeling in your head, in your shoulders. So we're going to bring it up, and now right ear down towards the right shoulder, right, and then just gently roll the chin forward. It's not much, but enough to feel that stretch right there, the upper shoulders and neck. Again, relax your breathing. And good. Let's bring it back upright. Very nice, very nice. Good. Now, some of you, if you're experiencing, maybe migraines or, maybe, let's say like lockjaw or, some TMJ pain, right? That neck position is going to be huge, right? If you have your head forward, it's going to bring the jaw out of alignment. So that's why it's important that we keep the head in, like, smushed in to have a better alignment. All right. So let's have some more water. It is time for another water break. Let's do that. As I mentioned at the beginning, if any of these movements feel like these are going to be good for you, like specifically for you, then you can absolutely select those to do, if not every day, then maybe most days of the week. Okay, you don't have to do this entire program consistently. Sometimes just picking and choosing is the best method for you. But we're going to move on to some movements here. And so not only have we been focused on massaging out some of these areas, but also stretching these areas. Now let's go ahead and apply some movements to help work a better movement pattern, right, in the better alignment that we're working for. All right. So, and the reason why it's important is because, especially with the hips, if the pelvis and the hips are out of alignment, that's going to affect, again, everything below the body and above, which includes walking. And if your gait, right, your stride is off, that will certainly impact what you feel down the road, right? You might feel some pains and what have you. So we want to address these areas that will help keep things in a better position, so you're less likely to feel, those discomforts. And we're going to start with what's called the prone hip extension, or basically your face down. We're going to get some glute activation here. So let's bring it down to the floor once again. And as far as your positioning, one, I want those toes pointing straight down into the floor once again. So let me move a little forward. There we go. And also, you can keep your arms on the floor, by your sides if you like. I like to have my forehead resting on the back of the hands here. You can even use your padding too, or a towel if you want, because you want a good neck alignment as well for this. But as we're in position, you're going to push your hips, all right, your pelvis right into the floor. And we're just going to take one leg, lift it from the floor by squeezing your glute, and then back down. So I'm doing my left leg right here. Keep that knee straight as best as you can. Notice it's not going to be much of a movement. If your leg's coming way up high, one, your hip is probably lifting off of the floor, so keep it down. Two, you're also bending the knee, which you're going to take away from the glute. So we want to make sure that we focus on just the hip for this one. Keeping that leg straight, and switch to the other side. Same thing. Both hips stay down. As we lift, squeeze the glute as you lift, which will also take away pressure from off of your low back. Doing good. If at any point you feel cramping, go ahead and stop. You can massage that area out, get a, stretch that specific spot like the hamstrings. But let's go ahead. We're going to stop right there, moving on to the side lying abduction. So in other words, we're going to do a leg lift. On your elbow or lying flat on your side. Either is fine. But what I want you to do, once you're in position, take that bottom leg, bend your knee so it's like 90 degrees, right? So the lower leg will be behind you. And I want you to roll that pelvis forward just a little so you don't feel like you're going to fall back. From here, keep your toes pointing forward as you lift. Feel the glutes and the outer hip activate and then back down. So again, back up and down. If you feel the front of your hip, you're probably rolled back too much because your leg really shouldn't be coming up that high. So roll your hips slightly forward to really emphasize the hip, the outer hip and the glutes. Excuse me. And we're going to switch to do the same for the other side. I love when you have to do a class, whether it be, streaming online or just, with people in front of you, and your throat, you have to keep clearing your throat. So I apologize for that today. It's like, no, bad timing. Doing good. And notice I'm moving slowly, right? It's nice and controlled on the way up and on the way down. You don't need to fly through this because we really want to emphasize, right, and focus on the targeted area, which would be the glutes, right? Right there on the side as well as slightly to the back. So let's stop right there. I think it was about 10, give or take. And some of you are probably counting a little bit better than I am today since I am talking a lot. But let's go ahead and get a little more glute activation here. So back onto the hands and knees. We were in this position earlier. So the quadruped position, right? So hands and knees. Notice my toes, how I have them, right, pointing straight down in towards the floor. We're trying to keep a neutral spine so your back is flat. And if you don't know how to find that position, you can go ahead and drop your low back all the way down and then flex, and then you're going to go right in the middle. Okay, so it's a quick way to figure that out. Now, from here, I'm going to take my left leg and straighten it back behind and then return. Notice how my leg is straight and not up towards the ceiling, right? And again, I don't have the knee up. So I'll just straighten out that leg so it's in line with my torso and hips and then return it back down. The other thing to consider too while doing this, you may not be able to see it there, maybe here, is making sure that your hips aren't turning away, right? You're trying to stabilize as much as you can. Will it be easy? Not necessarily. But keep your eyes looking straight down at the floor. And let's switch to the other side. So I'm going to use my right leg now. If you are already doing your right, do your left. Doing good. Again, getting that nice, slow movement. Again, a great way to get some glute activation, and we'll stop right there. Some of these movements, I think it will be great if you're getting ready for a sporting event. So whether you're going to be playing soccer or whatever it is you're going to do, even if you're going to go out for a run, some of these glute activation exercises will be great because if the glutes aren't firing when you're out doing those activities, then that could cause some problems, possible injuries. So definitely include that as part of your warm-up, some of these glute activation exercises. But let's go ahead, and it's going to be a little different. We're going to move up the body. We're going to focus on the spine. And what we'll do, grab your foam roller. If you don't have a foam roller, I'll show you what you can do too. But grab your foam roller, and remember how we were rolling out that back. So we're going to start so that, again, the foam roller is about where the bra line is, right? Maybe just below the shoulder blades in that area. Support the back of your head with your hands. Again, I keep my hands separated so they're not interlaced. Keeps me from pushing up on the head. From here, I'm going to push my shoulders down towards the floor, and then relax. Push down and relax. Again, we tend to be hunched forward, so many of us, with sitting all the time or what have you. So this is a great way to work those muscles in the opposite direction. So instead of flexing the spine like we usually do, we're going to extend them back. So use as little head as you can, more in your back when you bring those shoulders down towards the floor. Right? You're kind of pushing into the foam roller. And if you do not have a foam roller, or you just want to do this a little differently, you can sit for this one. And actually, we can all do this too. So as you're seated, this can be a very challenging one, but you're going to have your feet down on the floor, knees bent, and you're going to place your hands behind your head, bring your elbows forward, okay? And from here, elbows down towards your legs, and then you're just going to straighten out your spine, and then bring it back down. Straighten out your spine, and back down. Breathe out as you extend. Breathe in when you relax. Good. We can stop there. So another way to work those extensor muscles that run along the spine, right, to the sides of the spine and on the spine. And now we're going to work on the muscles like in the upper back, right, where the shoulder blades are. Many muscles that attach to those shoulder blades that are important for your posture. So lie flat on your back once again. I'm going to keep my knees bent because it's going to help adjust my pelvic position, right? So my spine can be more in the position I need it to be in. Right, just like a chest press, right? You start down so that your elbows are more in line with your chest. Elbows roughly 90 degrees. From here, I'm going to have you push your elbows into the floor for 2 seconds, then relax. Again, push down for 2 seconds and relax. Now watch your low back. Make sure that your low back stays down on the floor and you're not picking up away from the floor as you press. So you want consistent pressure throughout the back into the floor. So press down, 1, and relax. Do it again. 1, relax. Just go a few more times. Good. Breathe out as you press down. Breathe in as you relax. And one more time. And relax. Very nice, very nice. And that's a great way to strengthen that region if you don't have any other type of strength equipment like resistance tubing or dumbbells, what have you. You can just use the floor. And it's more of a static exercise, right, as you're holding it. But we are almost done here. So let's go ahead and stand up for these final 2 movements. And I mentioned this earlier, like with our neck position. So because of the rounded posture, our head tends to be forward. So we want those shoulders back. We're going to open up that chest. All right. Again, tuck your pelvis underneath and in your tailbone so you're nice and tall. And then with your head forward, smush that face. Right. So that it keeps you nice and tall. Right. Almost like giving yourself a double chin. Right. That's basically what you're trying to do here. And this will help work some of those muscles in front of the neck that help you flex, right, rather than extend and look up. They help you look down. But we want to stretch these muscles, so this particular position is going to help you stretch that. So, again, imagine someone who really stinks, right? They smell bad, they walk by you, you naturally just kind of withdraw your face. That's kind of what we're doing here. Now it's a different image to think of, but so good. Nice and tall. Get the glutes to activate. Brace those abs, keeping everything as tall as you can. You'll notice too, when you tuck that pelvis in, you'll feel that your feet, right, there'll be a shift more to the outer part of your feet rather than collapsing inward. So we can stop right there. Now we've already did a lot for the upper back and neck as it is. So now we're going to move on to the last one. We're going to combine a lot of these movements. Excuse me. We did some rotation, right? We did some, to the side. We did some That was forward. So now I'm going to have you rotate the pelvis, and I'm going to have you reach up and across. So a nice diagonal arm position. So reach up and across. You can even pivot on the toes if you like. But a good way to work everything throughout the body as we go through this movement. And let's say your shoulder's bothering you, you can go more across the body. You don't have to go up. So let's just do 3 more in each direction. 3, 2, 1, and we'll stop right there. Good. And pivoting on the toes could be good because it takes some of that pressure off of the knee. But nice job today with everything. I hope to see you next week as we go through a different topic. So stay healthy and take care.